And hello, everyone. Welcome to a new and long-awaited episode of Blockchain Talks. Now, in today's episode, we are going to do a rundown on what is called Bitcoin runes. In this live stream, I'm going to explain to you what exactly are runes on Bitcoin, what's their difference with BRC20 tokens, how they are related towards ordinals, and of course the effect they have on the Bitcoin network. So yeah, let's dive straight on in. I'm going to start sharing my screen here and start all the explanations. So let us start here with, there you go, with immediately the website of Sovereign. Well, I can tell you guys, but I'm going to be quite fair and honest here. It always helps if I have a little text in front of me to highlight and to make sure that I'm not forgetting to mention things. So as a rules protocol on Bitcoin, now Runes has been launched during the Bitcoin halving on 20th of April 2024 on block 840,000. So Runes has been launched a few weeks ago as of date. Now, who created it? Well, Bitcoin developer Casey Rodamore proposed the Runes protocol in September 2023 as an improved token standard for fungible asset issuance on Bitcoin. A little bit of background. Casey Rodamore is also the guy who is behind Ordinals. Now, Ordinals, what are those? Well, for that, I'm going to refer towards the last live stream I've done. Basically, Ordinals are Bitcoin NFTs. The biggest difference between an ordinal and a traditional NFT is that most NFTs, those being created on Binance, on Ethereum, well, aren't really images saved onto the blockchain. Generally, an NFT is a little hyperlink inscribed in the data of a transaction, which refers towards an external server where the NFTs are saved. Ordinals are different in the sense that they save the entire image on the blockchain itself. So that's Ordinals in a very, very summarized version. Frequently, they say Ordinals has been launched by a guy called Domo. However, Casey Rodamore has some big influence, has also been one of the programmers behind the Ordinals protocol, but yeah. With some semantics, they say it's not him, so it's not Casey Rodamore who was behind Ordinals, but Domo. Anyway, proposed Runes protocol, been working on the protocol since then, with the goal of making it ready for launch in April 2024. The article itself still speaks in the present as if it is to be launched. Rest assured, it has been launched. Well-known developer in the crypto space is the creator of the Ordinals protocol, like I mentioned, which the developers have used to develop various token standards for native asset issuance on Bitcoin. Although the Runes protocol is yet to launch, well, it has been launched. Few developers are already building projects based on it. Examples are Rune Alpha, Pipe, BTC, and RSIC. Why has it been created? He says, look, Rodamore describes it as a simple protocol with minimal on-chain footprint and responsible UTXO management, UTXO meaning unspent transaction outputs. It continues that UTXOs are individual units of Bitcoin value associated with specific addresses on the blockchain, representing funds that have not yet been spent and can be used as inputs in no transactions. Runes is different from the BRC20 token standard, which is complex and not unspent transaction output based. That the characteristic causes the BRC20 token standard to produce excessive junk UTXOs, which congest the Bitcoin network. Goal of Runes is to replace the less efficient Ordinals-based BRC20 token standard. Furthermore, the Runes protocol also strives to be better than other existing fungible token protocols on Bitcoin like RGB and Taproot assets. These options rely on off-chain data. What is being highlighted here, remember what I told you guys about NFTs, whereby on most accounts and even in the past with Bitcoin before Ordinals and Runes were a thing, there was an inscription of metadata, a hyperlink referring towards an external server. That's basically what is being told here. So when they say Runes protocol also strives to be better than other existing fungible token protocols on Bitcoin, like RGB and Taproot assets, as these options rely on off-chain data, it basically refers to the ability to produce NFTs which are stored on a centralized server elsewhere. Perhaps it might be interesting to dive a little bit deeper into what BRC20 tokens are. By reason, there will be some overlap between BRC20 tokens and runes. However, both have a fundamental difference where it concerns build. So I want to teach you guys to know the difference between BRC20 and runes. And the key takeaways are BRC20 is an experimental token standard for fungible tokens, specifically designed for the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, for those who do not know what fungible tokens means, well, as you guys know, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which imply it is a unique token, meaning, for example, if there's an NFT called Bored Ape Yacht Club, one Bored Ape Yacht Club is not the same as another in that series. Their value is different, and you cannot exchange one for the other for equal value. That means non-fungible token. When we start talking about fungible tokens, well, we are talking about fungibility, or the possibility to switch without losing value. For example, Bitcoin itself is a fungible coin. 1 BTC equals 1 BTC. Simple as that. 1 Ethereum is 1 Ethereum. 1 Binance token is 1 Binance token, etc. Although highly experimental, the innovative BRC20 standard enabled the creation of altcoins and tokenized assets on the Bitcoin network. Article explores what BRC tokens are, their advantages, yada, 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 yada. So they say are interchangeable. That we already know, as I have explained. Taproot upgrade, which increased the data capacity of Bitcoin blocks, played a crucial role in enabling the Ordinals protocol and subsequently laid the groundwork for BRC20 tokens. Enabled the inscription of data onto individual satoshis. Now, this isn't exactly correct. Truth is, with the Taproot update, there was a thing whereby you have the OP function, which allowed for additional data to be included on a transaction. It doesn't necessarily mean that you could start programming, by reason that it has been limited by a certain amount of characters. However, since the Taproot update, somewhere in, I believe, 2021, 2022, which it was launched, well, transactions could be joined together. Well, the idea was to, how do I put it simply, make more efficient use of block space. At the same time, there was the OP function, which was already present since the beginning, but there was something with the character limits. And that one has been extended, which allowed for ordinals to be implemented. The ordinals protocol, as I have explained in my previous video, makes use of, well, arbitrary data that can be saved with a transaction. And that's how ordinals came to be, by reason with that arbitrary data, leftover space that you can use with a transaction. People started getting creative and actually developed code which allowed for them to start saving additional data, such as images, video, additional text, etc. It allowed for a certain amount of programming, which gave rise to the BRC20 token standard. This in a very summarized version. So pros and cons of BRC20 tokens: simplified tokenization mechanism, eliminating need for intricate smart contracts. With that, you need to know smart contracts are not possible with BRC20 tokens. This simply facilitates easy token minting and transfer. Okay, network security. Leveraging the inherent security features of the Bitcoin blockchain, BRC20 tokens benefit from the decentralized nature, algorithmic technologies, and proof-of-work consensus mechanism, ensuring a high level of network security. What they basically are saying is the BRC20 token standard makes use of the Bitcoin network. So the security of the Bitcoin network secures, in a certain sense, all BRC20 tokens built upon it. Growth potential, although highly experimental, you can scratch that. By reason, the growth potential, it might exist, it might not exist. That's more, dare I say, marketing talk, more of like wishful thinking. Cons, no smart contract functionality. The dependency on the Bitcoin blockchain, that's the big one. We'll see that later on when comparing it to RUNES. Limited interoperability, tailored specifically for the Bitcoin ecosystem. BRC20 faced challenges regarding interoperability with alternative blockchain systems and crypto wallets. With that, they are basically saying at current time, you cannot easily switch a BRC20 token and have it exist at the same time on the Ethereum network or the Binance network, as an example. However, future-wise, with some programming trickery, it might be possible. However, currently it's safe to say there's limited interoperability. Limited utility, primarily designed for the tokenization of fungible assets, BRC20 is less suitable for non-fungible assets or the implementation of complex token features. With that, they are basically saying BRC20 is for making tokens. And with that, we are really talking not about non-fungible tokens or NFTs. We're really talking about altcoins based and made on the Bitcoin network. That's what I'm talking about. Network congestion, that's something which became quite apparent with the launch of Ordinals, and that's, well, since BRC20 tokens and all the NFTs which were suddenly started during the Ordinals protocol. Sorry, I've got a little cat here which is annoying me a little bit, and I'm losing a little bit of my flow here. So network congestion, yeah, with the Taproot update and the launch of Ordinals, plenty of data could be saved on the Bitcoin network, meaning congestion occurred. Network congestion translates into higher transaction fees, smaller transactions, or, well, peer-to-peer small payments, for example, for paying coffee, well, became almost impossible because the transaction fees were of such great height. It simply became not interesting to use Bitcoin for small payments. And that was one of the disadvantages of network. Well, that's the result of network congestion, which was a result of all the various NFTs and BRC20 tokens which were launched on the Bitcoin network. Now, I've explained now BRC tokens, how they function, how it does so. Now, let's take a look on how the RUNES protocol work. RUNES UTXOs integrate naturally with Bitcoin, which uses unspent transaction outputs. This helps minimize creation of junk UTXOs, which can clog the network. With that, they want to say, look, we create the token with a transaction, simple transaction being made where arbitrary data is saved. And we're going to make sure that runes are not each and every time referring back towards the Bitcoin network. There's already a big difference with BRC20 tokens. When you are moving BRC20 tokens, you will remain stuck and reliant on the Bitcoin mainnet, meaning data will always be saved at regular intervals, which can create congestion. There's a communication between main layer and the L2, which are the BRC20 tokens. With runes, they say this is not going to be the case. So it means network clogging will not occur between brackets. They continue. non-spent transaction output is a specified quantity of Bitcoin you haven't yet spent, which you can use to make a new payment. It's an output of previous Bitcoin transaction and remains available for spending until it is used as an input in a new transaction. Basically, UTXOs, well, that's basically what Bitcoin is. When you open your wallet and you see I have 0.01 Bitcoin in my wallet, well, that's an unspent transaction output. It is a value of the amount of Bitcoin you have, and you can say, okay, I'm going to make a transaction, I'm going to send 0.005 Bitcoin towards somewhere. Well, at that point, no UTXO is created, deduced from your wallet, and enters the wallet of your receiver, which will receive a new 0.005 UTXO. That's basically how a wallet works. This is basically how Bitcoin works. No real Bitcoin exists. No real Satoshis exist. When you are working with Bitcoin, and even in crypto in general, you are working with unspent transaction outputs, meaning you have a number, a quantifiable, well, I wanted to say quantifiable number, but yeah, not entirely correct, but for the time being, it'll do. So a certain amount of Bitcoin, and depending on the measurement you're using, sats or Bitcoin, it will be translated towards, for example, 500,000 sats or 0.0005 Bitcoin. And that's expressed as an UTXO. Basically, is that. Now, and here comes the comparison with Ordinals. A rune is assigned to an UTXO through a protocol message that designates the output ID and amount using OP return. OP return function is also what allowed for Ordinals to take place, which allowed for NFTs to be saved onto the Bitcoin blockchain, which allowed as well the creation of BRC20 tokens. OP return is a unique function for data storage on Bitcoin. OP return outputs don't congest a UTXO set since they are provably unspendable. Not entirely correct. The outputs they create is arbitrary data which will congest on the Bitcoin network, meaning that your transaction size becomes bigger. It takes up more space, and if enough such big transactions exist, smaller payment transactions will be priced out or will have to wait longer depending on transaction fee you are paying. The ID is a numeric identifier of the rune, while the output specifies the output index to receive the rune token. The amount defines how many rune tokens will be transferred. With that, they're saying, look, if you're going to mint, the ID tells you how it's being called and how many tokens are being created. All rune messages, be it creating, etching new runes, or transferring runes, are encoded in a single OP return output in a transaction. The visibility, rune name, and other metadata are in the same OP return in the same transaction. And I say as well, token supply of a rune is contained in single UTXO, supply transfer is one, blah, blah. So that's all technical. You guys can read. If you have questions, just ask them. I'll answer afterwards. I'll try to remain, well, I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Anyway. Unspent transaction output are used to track the balance of rune tokens. Interestingly, the runes protocol doesn't link the balance record of a token to a wallet address, but holds it within a UTXO, so all data is being saved in an unspent transaction output. Runes are transferred with a Bitcoin transaction with an OP return output that specifies what amount of runes from inputs go to what unspent transaction outputs. In here they say, look, that's how it works. And basically, up here they say how a rune is created, basically by etching. And these are the data which will be saved or being mentioned in the OP return function. The name of the rune, its divisibility, the symbol, pre-mine, some arbitrary data, terms, arbitrary data, cap, how many of the token will be available, amount, fixed amount of runes units created with each mint transaction, start height, end height, etc. So this is data that will be saved within the UTXOs or in the transactions in order to create Bitcoin runes or your new fungible tokens on the Bitcoin network. Biggest difference here? Well, we're going to highlight this. What's the difference really between BRC20 and the Runes token standard? Purpose. Runes issuance of non-fungible tokens. This might be a mistake because Runes is as well for the issuance of fungible tokens, only more simplified. BRC20 issuance of fungible tokens. So yeah, tokens at base level. Creator Casey Rodamore, BRC20 Domo. That's what I talked about earlier when telling about with Ordinals, Casey Rodamore, and programming stints. So with BRC20, it's safe to say yes, a guy called Domo, and Runes, okay, is from Casey Rodamore. Casey Rodamore also being the guy which enabled Ordinals. Date of launch, April 2024, March 2023, okay. Model, unspent transaction output based, and the other one is Ordinals based. I'm going to say not entirely true. As I've mentioned before, both are making use of approximately the same technology which allowed for Ordinals. However, BRC20 uses Ordinals trickery in a more expensive and more complicated manner to create fungible tokens. Whereas Runes, they're going to say, yeah, we're going to apply the same Ordinals theory and do it unspent transaction output based. So meaning we're going to create tokens by including arbitrary data with the transactions, which also allows for Ordinals to be created. But this time we're going to do some smart contract programming between brackets in order to allow for the creation of Bitcoin based tokens, which aren't BRC20, but this time called Runes. The design, well, they say it's rather simple. BRC20 is complex. Indeed, with BRC20, there's still some communication with main layer, whereas with Runes, communication is one-sided, and people will say, yeah, it doesn't necessarily communicate back towards main chain. Runes on-chain footprint low, BRC20 high due to junk unspent transaction outputs. With this, they mean the communication between the token layer and main layer of Bitcoin. On-chain footprint Runes does the same, but the data being carried over is smaller when compared to BRC20. Lightning compatibility Runes, yes, BRC20, no. Errors, non-permissible, permissible, open mint, allowed, allowed. And here they go straight into DeFi, which if that's something which interests you, I'd say give it a small read. However, today I'm focusing mainly on Runes. Now, with all the tech talk on the side, let's head on straight into the Ordinals and Runes, what exactly they are. And for that, this is the official ordinals.com website. You can see, well, these are Ordinals NFTs being saved onto the Bitcoin blockchain. It is still an active protocol. Later on, as you guys can see on my screen, I've got the mempool open. You guys will see what Ordinals, what kind of space, like I talked earlier and in the previous blockchain talk episode, the amount of space they are taking. Now, you can see there are some images, static ones, dynamic ones. Then you have some like these, which are entirely black. Those aren't images. These are so-called JSON files. JSON files are, in all actuality, nothing more than the creation of BRC20 tokens. They are black by reason it isn't an image or a little video which is being encoded. No, it is simple programming languages. And this website, the Ordinals website, when showing the various Ordinals being minted, well, from a JSON file, they cannot see or read the code itself, so it remains black, but it means a BRC20 token has been created. And you can see, despite repentance of a few of them and some weird, badly drawn paint NFTs exist, some BRC20 tokens are still being created. Those are the latest inscriptions. Now let's head on over towards runes, which is here. What is we see here? We see already quite a lot of runes which have been created, all with various weird names. You've got the Dildo Baggins runes. Let's head on. Let's open this one. As an example, you can see the metadata we have discussed here. Let's head on here. So the name, the visibility symbol, etc. It's a good example. I clicked open. This happens to be an NFT, if I'm not mistaken. That's its number, timestamp, idea, etching block. So that's the block where it was saved. I'm going to open it up already. Etching transaction 489, mint, start none, and none. Amount, they say there's 10,000 which exist. Gap, remaining, mintable true. Total supply, pre-mine percentage. Generally, when we are talking about tokens, there will always be a pre-mine when they are created. It's not like Bitcoin that there's a fair distribution going on. No, generally when we're dealing with tokens, a pre-mine has been established, and afterwards will developers come up with a distribution mechanism, and will they start talking about tokenomics, about locked tokens and the percentages on how it is being distributed. For example, this is the block, hash, target, timestamp, weight, previous block, 5 runes, they say René Descartes, up, and those are the inscriptions which were made. 5,101 transactions. So these are all transactions saved in set block. And technically, if I go towards the mempool, you could see. I'm going to let it load a little bit here. There we go. This is the block that has been minted, and it's immediately a good example of what occurred post-halving. This is one from 16 hours ago. That's the hash, timestamp, yada yada. Expected, real block. And what do we see here? Well, quite a lot of stuff. Transactions, the OP return function reoccurs here, meaning generally data is being inscribed. At overall, we might say that the transactions with an OP return function as of block 840,000 can be a rune being etched into the Bitcoin blockchain. But generally, batch payment, consolidation, but the bigger blocks at overall tend to be, well, the ones that I'm highlighting here, tend to be inscriptions or runes. By reason, there's additional arbitrary data being saved onto the Bitcoin blockchain, which allows for the creation of runes, which allows for the creation of BRC20 tokens, or even to save ordinals themselves, so the NFTs. So basically, this is what an example of a rune is. And anyone who's reading here with me can see this is, well, currently I'm going to let the Bitcoin maximalist talk in me. This is nothing more than shitcoinery on the Bitcoin blockchain. It was already bad with BRC20, but now with runes, it is made more easily and, well, became much more disastrous. As you can see, not always does a little image exists. Sometimes it's just people fooling around, making a rune, adding additional data to the blockchain. So yeah. Now, results of runes, and for that I'm going to head towards the first block. Well, this is the halving block, and as you guys can see, something during launch very strangely occurred. Runes was activated, and we see plain and total congestion occurring. These are all inscriptions, arbitrary data being unleashed onto the Bitcoin blockchain. And well, the fees were bad, and I'm really talking bad, as you guys can see. In this block, for the very first time, the Bitcoin base reward was 3.125 Bitcoin. But as you guys can see, transaction fees were of such a crazy amount that the miners who mined this block, well, got a whole lot more Bitcoin in their hands. Those are transaction fees, subsidy plus the reward, and that's the end line. Those are blocks of 40 Bitcoin. It was insane. This is what runes cost. Plenty of congestion flooded the Bitcoin network. The mempool got clogged. Fair transactions, fair small peer-to-peer transactions were being priced out. Everything you're seeing here are almost all runes and ordinals being created. There were about, I don't know, but a few real transactions, if I'm not mistaken, those ones here in orange who managed to be saved. And if we go back towards here, you can see even now runes are being minted. Now transaction fees are back at more suitable levels, but there's plenty of transactions still unconfirmed on the Bitcoin network. Slowly but surely, more and more are being taken up, but yeah, as you can expect of that. Now, what's data? These are, you can see a greater majority are inscriptions. The smaller ones, these are all runes right now. Big blocks are generally ordinals. Consolidation, so even those can be runes when talking about consolidation. Moving, so those are the coin joins. So real transactions are getting quite rare at the moment, mostly because people are still recovering from the runes activation and the very high transaction fees which occurred. Now, runes, are they a net positive for the Bitcoin network? Some might say yes, in my humble opinion, and others with me, I'm going to say no. By reason, we are allowing for shitcoinery to take place on the Bitcoin network. We are allowing for altcoins to be created on the Bitcoin network. Now, I want to remind everyone here, the Bitcoin white paper clearly states the use case for what Bitcoin was made. And it's fairly simple. Peer-to-peer electronic cash system, meaning for payments as a currency. Bitcoin has never, or the Bitcoin network has never been made with that of a data storage system in mind. Not like Binance, not like Ethereum, where both had this in mind. Bitcoin was made in mind with being a currency whatever people want to say that it's a mode of exchange, store of value, yada yada yada, has been incepted as a currency. Oh yeah, and the downside you're seeing here means a new block has been minted. Just a little giveaway. And well, as you guys can see, plenty of data congesting or bloating up the blocks. Anyway, this was a little bit about the runes. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I see some questions here. Not all blockchains work with... Yeah, I'm going to show that's correct. Why are you so countered against full blocks? It's not that I'm against full blocks. My main issue here is that block space needs to be efficiently used. So a full block full of real transactions, I have no problems with it. It implies the network is being used properly. What I am against is full blocks as a result of arbitrary data. Imagine that, I'm going to say, you drive your car, and naturally the best thing to have the best driving experience with your car, or the least impactful, is if you're a taxi service that plenty of people are in your car that you can drive from point A to point B. That's efficient. That's nice because you can ask on anyone, okay, give me a transaction fee, yada 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 yada. It's done. What you do not want is one fat guy getting into your car, one fat guy getting into your car with plenty of luggage that needs to be hauled from point A to point B. You don't want that, by reason you will be using more fuel. The ride will be less efficient, by reason you are helping less people getting from point A to point B. So that's a little bit the difference here. It's the difference between using your available space decently. Like I said, full blocks are not the problem. The problem really is with the data that is being saved in the blocks. Taproot has been launched in order to have a more efficient network, to have more efficient data being saved on the block, so to say. I know the words in Dutch, but I'm trying to translate it in English. It has to do with efficiency of data being stored in your blocks. So it really isn't a case of, oh, full blocks. No. It's what's inside the transactions, which is bothering everyone. So, yeah. Oh my god, the miner got extra Bitcoin rewarded. I have mentioned this a few times on Twitter already. Okay, data is being saved on blockchain, transaction fees goes up. Yay, the miners are getting paid. However, if you really are decent with the maths, isn't it a bit odd? Perhaps I should actually show one of my tweets with the calculations, but anyway. Got extra Bitcoin rewarded. It's not about the extra Bitcoin being rewarded because the blocks are full. The problem is when you are saving the additional arbitrary data, you are actively censoring the smaller real peer-to-peer transactions. The problem is those are being left out, which each have a little transaction fee. And it's one of the calculations I always repeat on Twitter. What seems to be better? 5,000 small transactions with each a transaction of $2, which gives a grand total of $10,000 in transaction fees, or have 50 big transactions with big data clogging the entire network, and those 50 each pay, let's say, to keep it simple, 20 USD dollars, so 10 times what the small transactions need to pay, so 50 times 20, that's about 1,000 USD dollars. So can you see the difference here in potential? It's not really that the miners aren't earning any money. It's just due to unfair use of the block space, they are getting less for what they should be having. And that's one of the reasons why on Twitter and all social media, I am such a big fan of starting to filter the spam or filtering out everything that is ordinals and runes. By reason, they are using up block space on the cheap, pricing out real-time transactions, which could generate a lot more income for the miners themselves. Now, myself, I'm a miner, and people will start pointing out, yeah, but you're not a miner, you're not earning. I do. And my hash rate is dedicated towards a mining pool who filters out all that arbitrary data, which filters out everything concerning OP return by reason of the calculation I just mentioned. I'd rather have a full block with 5,000 transactions where each transaction had transaction fee of $2 than a full block with 50 transactions where each transaction had $20. Sure, transaction fees are higher. I'm still getting paid in both cases. But in the case where the filters are being activated, I'm earning more. And now people could make the case, yeah, but before that, the blocks weren't filled and you would be earning less. Not necessarily true. It is, of course, an evolution which is to occur on the Bitcoin network. But Bitcoin has always remained active and based on the shoulders of people who had the best in mind for everyone. And as a miner, I'm still ideologically inclined. I want to have fair money for everyone. That's another argument I frequently heard. Check before ordinals to the blocks empty. Isn't that bad for Bitcoin? Well, up until even before Ordinals was launched, Bitcoin still had good mining pools, still had plenty of people supporting the network. So even before Ordinals, the network has been doing fine for the last 15 years. So no, it wasn't that bad for Bitcoin. Community thrived, the network thrived, everything went well. It's only with the launch of Ordinals that we are seeing high transaction fees, and people are trying to justify it by saying, yeah, but now miners are getting more revenue and security budget, yada, 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 yada. No. Before Ordinals, Bitcoin has been steadily growing for 15 years. 15 years thriving without it, meaning that it could continue on that same path without Ordinals. It is a bullshit argument. Plain and simple as that. And with that, I'm going to end the live stream unless some other questions arise. So feel free to ask them. I guess not. With that, I'm going to say thank you guys for watching. If any other question remains, feel free to reach out on YouTube, on my social media accounts. And of course, Kitty needs to be in the live stream like any other live streams I've done to date. So with that, I want to say, if any other questions remain, feel free to contact me on all social media, leave a comment down below, etc. And with that, thank you guys for watching, and until next time. Bye-bye. Say hi, Kitty. Yep, you're going.